Is this working? Yeah, you can hear me. Hi, good morning, everybody. Lovely day out, huh? We're all in here, never mind. Okay, so this talk really is not going to be highly technical, but focused more on the basics of what you need to do to become Annex 1 ready, and also what you need to do in relation to data integrity. Just to let you know who NPC are, who I work for, we are a company based in Ireland, and we work on environmental monitoring and assisting pharmaceutical companies in that area. We supply three main products. We work with three main producers. Sherpa Pharma, which this talk is probably more relevant to. And Sherpa Pharma is, Sherpa Pharma commenced in 2016. Doesn't seem like a long time ago, but the company that it worked comes from Lab in Barcelona. They started many years back. And it's a software solution company. And if anybody wants to see that software, it's on the NPC stand here. The other product we have is media, culture media, coming from a German provider called PMM. Dr. Muller's quite famous in that he started Haifa, and then he sold it to Merck, and then he retired to prune the roses, got bored, and started another company. Interesting company because it's the only media company that manufactures for the pharmaceutical industry alone. It doesn't make for anybody else. And then lastly, IE Lab, which is a Spanish company, part of the Suez group, coming from Alicante, that is producing strains. This thing changes itself, doesn't it? Is that what you had, Jim? Yeah? Yeah. Produces control strains. But more importantly, their expertise is in control strains for taking your strains and putting them into the right kind of setup. And lastly, we do training, particularly focused around the growth promotion test. So I think we all want to move towards a greener future. I think you'd all like your company to be a greener organization. And I think you should question, this topic is questions and answering questions. And I've kind of answering the questions for you and asking the questions for you. Do you long to be rid of paper? Do you use paper forms to check samples? Do you take these forms into clean rooms? Oh, grief. Do you use labels on plate lids? Do you write on plate lids? What material are these labels made from? Have they been sterilized before you're using these labels? Do you use paper forms to check that you're receiving all necessary plates? Do you write counting results down on paper? Are you using a LIMS system? If you're using a LIMS system, is it paper-free? Very often with microbiology, it's not. Are others in the organization generating paper from the data produced? You need to stop using more paper, and to become more data integrity wise, you need systems that stop that. So a quick look at what data integrity means, and this man's back in the news again, and I can't think of a better person to express integrity. It's the practice of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles, incorruptibility, and data are facts and statistics collected. Some definitions: raw data is the original record where this has been captured in a dynamic state and generated electronically. Metadata is the information that describes that data. And data integrity is the degree to which the data is complete. We're in the age of data. We talk about the age of data. What is meant by that? 90% of the world's, this is an interesting fact, 90% of the world's data was generated only in the last 2 years alone. Incredible. And being able to collect data, interrogate it, extract insights have become quite significant. And poor data leads consequently to poor decisions. And organizations need to be sure that their data is healthy. But the problem with organization is that they leave it, I tend to find when I'm talking to the laboratories especially, that it's exclusively a small bunch of IT people that have the responsibility for this, or a couple of rock star personnel that can make it happen in the lab. And this shouldn't be the case. We should all be able to understand what we're talking about with data. How to spot bad data? Bad data can come from every area of your organization, from sales to engineering. But there is a common framework to assess data quality. And these are the 5 most critical dimensions: completeness, accuracy, consistency, and accessibility. And I have good news for you. You're the lucky ones. Because you remember this, the pandemic. We now talk about BC as something else. So I did this 20 years BC or something before COVID. Because we were not forewarned about COVID. And this led to a huge, frantic rush to try and get PE. And we were shortages of it everywhere. And people were really going crazy for this. But we've been warned about what's coming with Annex 1. We know the date, and we know what needs to be done. It's August the 25th, 2023, not long to go. And we have to be ready for that. Annex 1 tends to focus more on sterile companies, but data integrity is related to both sterile and non-sterile. But we have to be ready for it. And there are very few companies, you can count them on one hand, I think, that have the capability of doing the software and what is needed for meeting the regulations. And Sherpa Pharma, the one I pitched to you earlier, is one of them. There are others. So whose responsibility is for the data? It's a strategic priority involving professionals from every corner of the company that you work for. Everybody should have responsibility. It should be really a holistic approach. You need the right solution that will allow everyone in your organization to be able to contribute. It's not new. Data integrity has been around for some time. These are rules governing medicinal products in the European Union, containing guidance of the interpretation and principles of guidelines. So really we should know what we're doing about this. And the time to move forward is now. The use of paper and Excel is no longer acceptable. Working from remote locations, as we do now, really has become the norm. So the use of good data integrity systems are important. The breaches of data integrity are on the up. In 2016, this goes to, FDA warning letters were quite considerable, with quite a high level, as you can see, in Europe as well. So how can pharmaceutical companies meet the requirements of Annex 1? And they can do this by introducing a reliable and effective monitoring, environmental monitoring process. And this really must be an integral part of the contamination control strategy. So just taking a few sections of Annex 1 and then seeing really what the solutions could be for whatever system you may choose to use. Section 3.2, all non-conformities such as sterility test failures, environmental monitoring excursions or deviations from established procedures should be adequately investigated before certification release of the batch. Direct quote from Annex 1. The solution is that companies should have a tool that really helps them do this. The data needs to be available to all users, and it needs to be available instantly. Meaningful conclusions about root causes should be able to be identified in minutes. And additional, as well, you need alarms to be able to alert people to what is happening. And you need really a reliable system that can do that. And as I said earlier, there are few of these systems on the market. The one we provide, Sherpa Pharma, provides instant environmental batch reports with all that's required for executing samples, not just specific samples. Section 5, equipment, additional cleaning, disinfection, and environmental monitoring should also be considered. And the solution is that the system should allow any God, this jumps, doesn't it? The system should allow the definition of any number of sampling plans according to the needs of each company and the situation. Scheduled sampling sessions should be easy and can be made at any moment instantly. You need a system that can be able to do this. Section 8, production and specific technologies, a bit long I'm afraid, but for materials, equipment, components, and ancillary items that are not direct or indirect product, contact part are necessary for aseptic processing but cannot be sterilized, and effective and valid disinfection and transfer process should be in place. These items and other representing potential routes of contamination should be included in the environmental monitoring program. So the choice of your system should make it possible to easily define sampling plans, to properly monitor any material or components that cannot be sterilized. 8108, viable monitoring of BFS processes should be risk-based and designed in accordance of Section 9 of this Annex. Risk analysis must be based on sound data. So really a powerful feature of any system you choose should be collecting data, manipulating data, and being able to use that data fast. Okay. Section 9, again, environmental monitoring program should be established and documented. So the solution here is risk assessments should be conducted based on detailed knowledge of process inputs, final product, facility, equipment, criticality. The operations involved, the routine monitoring of data, monitoring data obtained during qualification, and knowledge of typical microflora isolated in the environment. You need a system that easily provides relevant data from routine monitoring or qualifications to facilitate risk investment. You need to be able to track any microbial flora from the environment. For example, a certain number of alerts in a specific number of samples or a number of incremental or decremental consecutive values, or the presence of mold or the presence of specific microorganisms of concern, that sort of thing. You need to be able to set alarms so that the system will alert you to what is going on. And you can see here an example of an alarm from the Sherpa Varma system that will flag up and email somebody what is happening in the facility. Section 9, environmental monitoring and process controls, continued. Routine monitoring of clean rooms, clean air equipment and personnel should be formed in operation throughout all critical stages of process equipment setup, alert levels for grade A, particle B, C, D. So the solution is that the decisions have to be data-driven. Simple statistic data calculations should be available with the system that you choose with a click, allowing risk-based sound decisions to be made when defining sample locations and sampling frequencies. Trends should be easily generated. And this ability to do this should be available to everyone who needs it. Holistic approach. The data that's being generated by the microbiology environmental monitoring is not solely the property of the microbiology lab. It belongs to everybody involved. Again, environmental and process control 922, where aseptic operations are performed, microbial monitoring should be frequent, using combinations such as settle plates, volumetric air sampling, glove gown, etc. These really should be configured in a sampling plan, which should be scheduled with total flexibility. Frequent and conditions of air monitoring will be required, more samples if the production is extended or if it's shortened. This should not be an issue for the system. There should be no need to plan the number of necessary samples in advance. The system should be able to request more samples if it's needed according to the length of the production process. Quality control. Media used for product testing should be quality control tested according to the related pharmacopoeia before use. And the system should prevent the use of expired media. It's very important when defining the sample location that it should be possible to determine the allowed types of media. And here we see an example of barcoding, and the system should be able to read that barcode, and it should be able to inform you whether that media is available for use, should not be used, has been used, is in date, is out of date, when it was produced, what media it was, has it passed the growth promotion test, is it fit for use. That should be available at the click of a button, allowing you to know that you're safe to use that media and that you can then get on with what you're doing. Environmental monitoring data and trend data generated for classified areas should be reviewed as part of the batch certification release. So the system really should provide a comprehensive and easy-to-use generate product batch to aid the batch certification and release process. So in this way, the system will prevent users from using incorrect types of media. So really within this there's been a lot of bad habits with data integrity and management system. Failure to perform required testing, falsification of critical data, deletion of data, falsification of GMP reports, failure to ensure that laboratory records include complete data, failure to configure computerized systems to meet the requirements for security and control, and failure to document laboratory records contemporaneously and or deliberate falsification. These are all events that bad habits that have crept in, which is why data integrity is so important. And in summary, this is not a new topic, but now very much in focus from the authorities. Key elements of ensuring robust operations in the company, and especially in labs, are important. The clock is ticking now, with actually only 2 to 3 months to go. So it's essential that everyone understands the responsibility and that they are ultimately responsible for their data, for the data integrity and for the company. Everyone has good intentions here, and good intentions are no defense. Action is what's needed. New technologies now have to be considered to reduce the data integrity risk. New technology, which is not really such great technology, is barcode reading to prevent writing on plates, as technology which is accepted so much in other areas. There are very few companies that are capable of producing and supporting systems relevant to the microbiology. LIMS, for those of you who've tried it or used LIMS, will know when your IT person says we can adapt that to work for microbiology, it does not. Microbiology is quite a unique science, quite a unique subject, and it requires careful consideration when designing a system for such use. So, please, if you want to stop by the MPC stand, there is a system there, Sherpa Pharma. There are other systems available. We'll be delighted to show you our system as well. Thank you. That's a nightmare.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, we'll have a look at that in the break. Any questions for Peter before we break? Oh, we're going to have a question. Yep, John?
So your Sherpa Pharma software, what GAMP categorization is that?
GAMP 5. Am I correct? Correct. The GAMP category of our Sherpa Pharma software. Yeah, GAMP 5 level 4.
Level 4?
Yeah.
So configurable, but not customized?
It's customizable, yeah.